Felix, flat. Nagali, Java. Hey,
Good day, Africa. Welcome to Event Update on AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. Event Update brings you information about upcoming higher education events happening in Africa, and it is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. I am Isabella Tetahinakwa.
Je m'appelle Alexandra Mpaba-Johnson.
The World Bank Group is calling for applications for the World Bank Group Young Professional Program, WBGYPP, a 2-year leadership development program at the start of a 5-year employment contract with the World Bank, International Finance Corporation, IFC, or Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, MIGA. This program will recruit and develop future leaders to collaborate effectively across the institutions on joint WBG solutions to development challenges. Young professionals are recruited from around the world with various academic and professional backgrounds relevant to the World Bank, IFC, and MIGA. Interested applicants must be qualified individuals from diverse professional, academic, and cultural backgrounds and must demonstrate a passion for international development, a graduate education, relevant professional experience, and the potential to grow into impactful leadership roles across their institutions. To be eligible for the WBG Young Professional Program, applicants must be born on or after 1st October 1988, have a master's or doctoral degree, specialize in a field relevant to YPP business areas, demonstrate relevant professional experience or continuous study at the doctoral level, and be fluent in English, among others. Applications for the inaugural WBG YPP cohort are open from 1st June to 30th June 2020 for all profiles and will reopen from 17th August to 21st September 2020 for IFC and MIGA profiles only. Interested applicants should apply online by submitting their CV, academic credentials, 2 short essays, short summaries of thesis or dissertation for World Bank candidates only, and 3 professional or academic recommendations. For more information, please visit www.worldbank.org/YPP.
Le groupe de la Banque mondiale lance un appel à candidature pour le programme des jeunes professionnels du groupe de la Banque mondiale WBG-YPP, un programme de développement du leadership de 2 ans au début d'un contrat de travail de 5 ans avec la Banque mondiale, la Société financière internationale SFI ou l'Agence multilatérale de garantie des investissements MIGA. Ce programme recrutera et développera de futurs leaders pour collaborer efficacement à travers les institutions sur des solutions conjointes du GBM aux défis du développement. Les jeunes professionnels sont recrutés dans le monde entier avec divers antécédents académiques et professionnels pertinents pour la Banque mondiale, la SFI et la MIGA. Les candidats intéressés doivent être des personnes qualifiées de divers horizons professionnels, universitaires et culturels et doivent démontrer une passion pour le développement international des études supérieures, une expérience professionnelle pertinente et le potentiel de devenir des rôles de leadership percutants dans leur institution. Pour être éligible au programme WBG-YPP, les candidats doivent naître le 1er octobre 1988 ou après, posséder une maîtrise ou un doctorat, se spécialiser dans un domaine pertinent au domaine d'activité du PJP, démontrer une expérience professionnelle pertinente ou des études continues au niveau du doctorat, parler couramment l'anglais, entre autres. Les candidats pour la première cohorte WBG-YPP sont ouverts du 1er juin au 30 juin 2020 pour tous les profils et rouvriront du 17 août au 21 septembre 2020 pour les profils IFC et MIGA uniquement. Les candidats intéressés doivent postuler en ligne en soumettant leur CV, leur diplôme de cours-essai, un bref résumé de leur thèse ou dissertation pour les candidats de la Banque mondiale uniquement et 3 recommandations professionnelles ou académiques. Pour plus d'informations, veuillez visiter www.worldbank.org/YPP.
The management of the University of Rwanda is pleased to invite interested and qualified candidates to apply to study PhD programs offered by the African Center of Excellence for Innovative Teaching and Learning Mathematics and Science, ACE-IT-LMS, which is based in the College of Education, University of Rwanda. ACE-IT-LMS is one of the 4 Africa Higher Education Centers for Excellence supported by the World Bank, and it seeks to strengthen human capacity in the delivery of quality teaching and learning of mathematics and science in Rwanda and across the region through collaboration with regional and international institutions. Interested applicants can apply for PhD by research in chemistry education, biology education, mathematics education, and physics education. Applicants must have a master's degree in mathematics or science with an undergraduate degree in education, or a master's degree in education with an undergraduate degree in mathematics or science. Applicants must also have sufficient knowledge of English, should submit a PhD research concept note, clearly mentioning innovative aspects to mitigate current local and regional challenges in teaching and learning mathematics and science, and in application of STEM knowledge to real-life experience. All applicants should submit a detailed CV, notarized copies of certificates and transcripts, a motivation letter, 2 motivational letters from lecturers from your previous institutions, an abstract of master's program dissertation, a PhD research concept note, a sponsorship letter from an organization if applicable, or 2 recent passport-size pictures to the link on your screen before 26 June 2020. For more information, please contact Mr. Kiza William via kizawilliam2013@gmail.com or asitlms@uw.ac.rw or call +250 7808 39778. You can also visit www.asitlms.ur.ac.rw.
La direction de l'Université du Rwanda est heureuse d'inviter les candidats intéressés et qualifiés à postuler pour étudier les programmes de doctorat offerts par le Centre africain d'excellence pour l'enseignement et l'apprentissage innovant des mathématiques et des sciences ACE-ITLMS, basé à College of Education de l'Université du Rwanda. ACE-ITLMS est l'un des 4 centres d'excellence pour l'enseignement supérieur en Afrique, CEA, soutenu par la Banque mondiale, et il cherche à renforcer les capacités humaines dans les prestations d'un enseignement et d'un apprentissage de qualité des mathématiques et des sciences au Rwanda et dans la région grâce à une collaboration avec les régions et les institutions internationales. Les candidats intéressés peuvent postuler pour un doctorat par recherche en éducation en chimie, en biologie, en mathématiques et en physique. Les candidats doivent avoir un diplôme de maîtrise en mathématiques ou en sciences avec un diplôme de premier cycle en éducation ou un diplôme de maîtrise en éducation avec un diplôme de premier cycle en mathématiques ou en sciences. Ils doivent également avoir une connaissance suffisante de l'anglais, doivent soumettre une note conceptuelle de recherche de doctorat mentionnant clairement les aspects innovants pour atténuer les défis locaux et régionaux actuels dans l'enseignement et l'apprentissage des mathématiques et des sciences et dans l'application des connaissances STEM à l'expérience réelle. Tous les candidats doivent soumettre un CV détaillé, des copies notariées des certificats et des relevés de notes, une lettre de motivation, 2 lettres de motivation des enseignants des établissements précédents, un résumé de la dissertation du programme maîtrisé, une note conceptuelle de recherche doctorat, une lettre de parrainage d'une organisation si applicable et 2 photos récentes de format passeport vers le lien qui s'affiche sur votre écran avant le 26 juin 2020. Pour plus d'informations, veuillez contacter M. Kiza William via kizawilliam2013@gmail.com ou acitlms@ur.ac.rw ou appeler le +250 78 08 39 778. Vous pouvez également visiter le site www.acitlms.ur.ac.rw.
The organizing committee of the International Research Initiative Conference, IRIC 2020, has been postponed to 18th to 19th November 2020 due to the novel coronavirus and its accompanying restrictions. The new format for the conference will now be solely virtual, and the details of participation in the virtual format will be provided by 1st October 2020. IRIC 2020 has extended the deadline for submission of abstract to 24th July 2020. To facilitate your participation, please visit www.iric.us or contact Prince Darko at pdarko@ait.edu.gh for further information.
Le comité d'organisation de la conférence internationale des initiatives de recherche ERIC 2020 a été reporté du 18 au 19 novembre 2020 en raison du nouveau coronavirus et des restrictions qui l'accompagnent. Le nouveau format de la conférence sera désormais uniquement virtuel et les détails de participation au format virtuel seront fournis d'ici le 1er octobre 2020. L'ERIC 2020 a prolongé la date limite de soumission des résumés jusqu'au 24 juillet 2020. Pour faciliter votre participation, veuillez visiter www.iric.us ou contacter M. Prince Darko à pdarko@ait.edu.gh pour plus d'informations.
That is all for today's update, and it is brought to you by the Association of African Universities. Please follow us on our social media platforms at Association of African Universities on Facebook and YouTube, AAUTV_African Universities on Twitter, and AAUTV Official on Instagram. I am Isabella Titahenakwa.
Je m'appelle Alexandra Johnson.
And then it goes off at 5 or 4:30 when people are supposed to close. So I mean, so that we know there is nothing to be alarmed about. We are in a safe place. So we will spend the next 1 hour or thereabouts thinking through this topic. We will talk about the question of causation. And why we think it is such a big issue in this training. And by the time we finish, we want to be able to differentiate between descriptive and causal research. That is fairly simple. We should be able to talk about the concept of cause within a research context and describe or discuss different causal notions and their implications or applications for modern research, and then talk about general ways of analyzing a cause. We will deal with the first two in this session, and after lunch, the 1 hour after lunch, we will deal with the other part. We were hoping that, well, so this is another way of stating the outcomes. But let's go on straight to work. So generally speaking, we have two types of research in the social sciences, in the humanities generally. There is the descriptive type of research, and there is the causal type of research. And you would agree, I mean, we know that each of these calls for a different kind of thinking, a different kind of design, a different kind of analysis, and a different kind of inference. Sometimes problem begins when the design is descriptive, and then the findings are sounding like causal, and then the inferences are sounding like discausal, if there is anything like that, merging descriptive and causal together. I mean, I don't know. So it's it can be a problem, and I think this problem occurs because people don't even remember, if they ever knew, that these are two kinds of research, and that the way we go about them, once we start on one note, so we have to remain loyal to that note up to the end. But then again, you know, Susan talked about trained incapacity, borrowing across disciplines, and so on and so forth. We also want to be flexible about this. We need to know this. We need to know then we also need to know if there is, you know, we want to run away as much as possible from making some of these ideas look like laws that really cannot be bent. So we have these two, but we need to ask, I want to know which Which of these has been your main, your main kind of research? Going back to the research that you have done, which one have you done more than the other? Okay, descriptive, I think for most of us is descriptive. Huh? Descriptive simply says, this is what exists. This is what we see. I see people at Dandora adapting to their environment. That is description. I see that men are quicker to adapt than women. That is description. I see that there are more young people on Dandora dump site than we have on Ngong dump site, which is another serious dump site in Kenya where I have also done field work with my colleagues. Some of them. So all of that is just description. But then Koza says, I can see that this, is the reason that exists. In other words, this is the cause of that, or this is the product of that. And you see, which one do you think requires a lot more work? The causal, isn't it? Because I am telling people, you can stake your life on this. And that I am very sure, and on and on and on. But we don't want to go away with the impression that descriptive and causal are always fighting and they never meet. You see, this is where the problem sometimes is. We teach this kind of thing with so much evangelistic zeal that people think you have to swear allegiance to descriptive and stay on that road forever, or you have to swear allegiance. We even make laws about it. We don't do causal study because we don't, in our tradition, we don't. It shouldn't be like that. Let me ask you a question. What is the cause? When a system stops to work, what usually causes it, right? Don't say it out. Don't say it out. When a system stops working, what usually causes it? Write it somewhere where you can easily cross it out in case you are not happy with your answer. When a system stops working, what usually causes it? Write the answer.
The question is not clear.
Just answer it. Okay, write electricity. Write electricity there now. You've written it. This cohort is likely to be one of the smartest cohorts on the surface of the earth. Did you remember the question you asked me? Which system? You want me to do what? To describe. Then you can begin to say, this is the cause. We cannot do good descriptive causal research where there is no good descriptive research. So I was joking with Susan. Yesterday I went somewhere on our campus and I was supposed to do a mock presentation. And they asked me, bring out your system. I said, hey, wait. The reproductive system or the respiratory system or I don't mind, but if I'm going to bring out the reproductive system, it has to be in the toilet. Yes. They say, no, we mean computer. I say, yeah, you see, you have to tell me exactly what you mean. And we're going to spend some time just talking about concept formation sometime later. The danger in just assuming that everybody understands what we are talking about is always there. So the point I'm making is there are descriptive studies, there are causal studies, but we cannot do causal studies if the situation has not been described. How can we say democracy brings better economy if we don't agree on what democracy means? What really does it mean? Is Nigeria a democracy? Is Rwanda a democracy? Is Uganda not a democracy? It is. Yeah, are they the same? So description, we need to understand what we are talking about before we can say this is what it causes or this is what causes it. The second point that you have taught me here is that most of us have always been on the descriptive plane. And you went ahead and said, maybe it is because it is a lot easier to describe than to explain. This is the cause of that, right? I have been running this same training with 3 of my colleagues in Lagos, but I'm the only Nigerian among the 3. And almost every day, one person is complaining about stomach upset. So we say, okay, let's begin to do regression analysis. All right, so today we'll ask for food without pepper. Then we asked, and then somebody is running to the toilet an hour after. Okay, his problem is not with the... Let's ask for food without oil. So they put pepper, then no oil. Then 2 people are running to the... I mean, so establishing causality can be really, really tough. But then to say, how many people had stomach upset? 3, 2, 1, none. It's easier, right? But if that is the case, why don't I stay forever on the descriptive plane? We will talk about why we need causal studies in the next couple of slides. Why do you have to bother our head about that? But here, we will first talk about, I'm sure the distinction and the connection, not just the distinction, between these 2 types of studies are clear now, yeah? Yeah. And we can have this in any discipline that we have chosen. Whether it's sociology or political science or political economy or media studies, whatever, or agricultural economics, we have descriptive studies there, we have causal studies there. But there are conditions. Just as you can see now, I did say, and well, you were the one that started it, that we need rich description before we can do causation. So there are conditions under which we choose what type of work we do. And one way of looking at it is just to say, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So how much do we know right now? There are situations where the issue we are dealing with has been fully theorized. And the theory, the explanations, by theory I mean the broad explanations, seem to explain the phenomenon we're explaining very well. There are other situations where, I'm seeing A, B, C, and D scattered all over the world, all over the place. I can't find any theory that is holding this together for me. Situation number 3 is where there is plenty of data there. Data is available, and we can spin this around and make studies with it. But then there are also situations which let's call situation 4, where data is not available. Now, before I can say I want to do causal work or descriptive work, I need to look at these 4 and say, in which environment have I found myself? Is my environment data poor, or is it data rich? Is my environment theory poor, or is it theory rich? And when we put this together, then I say, okay, it looks like if I'm going to design a research agenda for myself here, it looks like first I have to actually start with description, do a paper, do a publication on that, or do some basic work on that, and then move up to something else, maybe causal study, and so on and so forth. So we need to really recognize where we are, the environment in which we are working. This table, maybe we'll come back to this table down the line, down the road sometime later, but sort of, it's a guide, and it's just a way of summarizing something. It's really not like foolproof, don't touch it, don't change it table, no. So we're saying the theory environment of where I work may be either poor or rich. The data environment may also be poor or may also be rich. And there are situations where, fingers are not equal, where the data environment is poor and the theory environment is also poor. Right? So that's that kind of situation. We say it is best we start with description to even say, what do we see? You know, for instance, in Nigeria, I will explain very well. We at some point we understood the insurgency in the northeast. We knew this was mainly religion. So religious explanation, I put theory in quotes, helped us to understand what was going on. We can even predict who the next victims would likely be. You know, there was some kind of understanding there. We had some kind of theory, right? Ethno-religious lenses. We may be wrong, we may be right, but at least it sort of explained things a bit. Then the insurgency, or whatever, I don't know the name, in Katsina began, which is northwest, another part of Nigeria. We just knew people were being killed, you know, tens every day, So who is really killing whom? We don't know. Katsina is heavily mono-religious. The people doing the shooting are also of that religion. So, okay, so now it just didn't make sense. The theory collapses at that point, right? And the data, how many people are being killed, what is their gender, no idea. So I can't go, if I then begin to explain causality in Katsina, it's going to be problematic because we don't even understand the situation. In a situation like that, we want to develop real descriptions, true, full descriptions first. But then there are also situations where the theory or existing explanations are good, but then the data environment may be a bit problematic. So we have rich theory environment, but then we have poor data environment. In a situation like that, we need to begin to understand descriptions in different contexts. I'll give you an example. I am from communication studies, so my examples are mostly in that area. There is a lot of work that has been done about how community radio stations promote development. Right. People have looked at how they hold government accountable, how they break hegemony, how they subvert evil things, and so on and so forth. All right. We have read all of that in literature. And the theories seem to explain situations in the places where these stations exist. But for a long, long time, Nigeria did not have a community radio system. Our first community radio stations were approved in 2015. So they are really new. Data about how community radio functions in Nigeria's peculiar situation are rare because they just didn't exist. How would we have studied them? But then global theories and Latin American experiences and all of that exist in literature. Now, I can't begin to talk straight about community radio in Nigeria because we have rich theory elsewhere, but then in our context, we do not have data. So, you know what we usually do, you and I usually do, is to borrow these theories, right? And then to try to ground them in the realities that we have found ourselves. Again, very often, it is usually quite descriptive. Then there are situations where the theory environment is weak, but the data environment is rich. And we have a lot of data there, but then we don't have theories that explain them. I am sorry, I'll bring another example from Nigeria. I don't, my Kenyan examples have all disappeared. I think it's because typically I start with my first cup of coffee in the day is from Kenya, but today it didn't work out that way. Now, some of us here will know what we call mix in Nigeria. not only in Nigeria, but we have it all over in some African countries. MIX is Multiple Indicator Cluster Surveys. MIX, it's done once in 2 years. And it's done by UNICEF in alliance with Ministry of Health, I think sometimes with the Federal Office of Statistics, Federal Bureau, I always, FOS, FBS. It used to be FOS, yeah. Federal Bureau of Statistics, they come together and then they generate this data. And the data is about literacy rate in Nigeria, infant mortality rate in Nigeria, child mortality rate in Nigeria, maternal mortality rate in Nigeria, life expectancy, all of, you know those things. And you know the kind of stories we read there. They are all songs of sorrow for most of the time. But you see, so we get that once in 2 years. That's data. But who is processing this data to give us broad explanations? We have a poor theory environment, but then we have a rich data environment. I mean, I know somebody can say, but even that data, you can't rely on it. And I say, all right, yeah, let's assume you can't. But then you have not even opened it to see whether it makes sense. So when we have this, we have rich data, but then we don't have theories that make sense of this data. We say, let us explore causality. And on the last day of this module, day four, we are going to be talking about, we'll do more of this kind of table, and we are going to be talking about how we can theorize based on this kind of situation. How do we make, they call it typological theories, how do we theorize in situations where, when we find ourselves in this kind of situation? Lots of data available there. We can plot them on a graph. We can separate them up and down. But then we do not have some broad theoretical explanations that help us to make sense of this data. Then the final one is where we have rich data and rich what? Rich theory environment. Both of them are rich. This is where we can choose to test what they call causal hypothesis. We have very nice theory, we have very nice data, but then now we want to test further what they call causal hypothesis. Again, this is like a foreshadow. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about research questions and hypothesis, and we are going to deal with this a lot more. Now, as I said, this is just an attempt to make sense of, to help us begin to think about the environment in which we have found ourselves. It is possible that right now you are still thinking, am I here? Am I there? Am I here? Am I there? It's okay. The more we think about your concept notes, the clearer these things are going to be. Yes, Valence.
Yeah, I'm wondering how to measure the richness of is it the number of theories
that exists? Okay, good.
The quality of the theories.
Good. How do you measure the richness or otherwise of a theory environment? Yeah. Did he answer a question that was bothering all of us? And why didn't you talk? Yeah, how do you measure the richness of a theory environment? How do you know this environment, the theory is rich or the theory is poor? Maybe we don't have problem with measuring data in terms of availability, rich or poor, but then theory, how do you?
Excuse me.
Yes, I'm still trying to learn people's name. Crispin. Yes, Crispin.
Earlier on, we were told that we need to find the background to the study, where we have to research to find out what others have done in that that process of reading the literature, surfing the literature, in order to find out that what I wanted to do is not
done. Yeah, perfect. I think
in that process, that's when you encounter.
Perfect. Let's just imagine, I mean, we all are adults now. Let's imagine the time that new media came, I mean, really hit us. You could search for, new media and educational performance. And Google will say, we do not have any item for your, yeah? Yeah, it was new. Literature was little. And when we say theory, let us remember we're not saying like a big theory that has a name to it. Theory, generally speaking, are existing explanations for a phenomenon. So it is difficult to say if you find X publications, then if that is all you can find, then theory is poor. Until you find X plus 1, then theory is rich. No, we cannot do that. But you will have to use your understanding of the discipline to say, okay, I think I have a robust body of explanation for this phenomenon that I am studying. It's difficult to prescribe a fixed number of studies or theories that exist there. But there was, I mean, there would be questions where to even find a very good reading would be difficult. Yeah. Yes, Edwin.
I'm noticing, it's sort of like implied the richness of data has something to do with how quantitative.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so let's, we should also think about that. When we say data, I know, traditionally, our minds go to, yeah, figures, you know, with charts, and even I am also guilty. The example I gave is almost all quantitative. Yeah, but we know that we really need to come out of that explanation. Yeah, data can also be, data is not only in numbers. Yeah, so, yeah. So when we talk of richness of data environment, it is both quantitative and qualitative, yeah.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Using your example, that is the richness or poverty of
data poverty.
Well, I'm talking of the theory.
Okay.
You know, you made mention of the fact that in the Northeast, sorry for Nigerians, you understand easily, we are trying to explain the crises or the instability there based on ethno-religious explanations. But at the end of the day, when the same people we are killing each other, we are not able to now use that theory. Okay. So I think that shows the poverty. It became grossly inadequate. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Again, which is, as we all know, even theory itself is not static. I mean, theory is just a body of explanations. It grows, then, but it also wanes. Yeah. So let's move on to talking about why do we need to focus on causality. Now we've been saying descriptive and causal. Now we want to begin to zero down on what really what our attention will be around for this training, and it's on causal studies. This is one guy you will read a number of times. He says, we wish to know not only what happened, but also perhaps more critically, why these things happen. And I have discovered that even when Nigerians ask questions of what, and Africans generally, they are really sometimes asking questions of why. You know, when I suddenly run into a traffic where there should be no traffic, my question is always, what is the problem? But am I simply interested in knowing what the problem is? No. I'm also interested in knowing how am I going to get out of here. You know? What is going to cost me to get out of here? So in other words, at the back of that what is the problem description is the intention to understand causation. What is going to get me out? How? Okay, so we'll talk about the how questions sometime later. So he says we wish to know not only what happened, but perhaps more critically, why these things happen. You know that we are only interested in causal argument. But that is Gehring. Why do you think we want to pay more attention to causal work in research? We have said, yeah, because we've been doing descriptive work. Yeah, I agree. But then that is not the only reason. Why should we bother about causation as researchers? Yes, Haruna. If we know the cause, I think we can go close to the solution.
Okay.
But when it is just described, I think we are still stuck. Okay. So understanding causation makes it possible for us to make recommendations for the solution of a problem. Okay, good one. Perfect. Any other? Yeah, okay. So, so we can prevent, if it's a problem, then we can prevent further recurrence of that problem. Yes.
I think
Irene?
somehow related to Karuna's, if you get to the root cause, then you are able to eliminate the factors that may be confounding, not necessarily that important,
okay.
you channel your resources.
Yeah, okay, beautiful. I need to warn you, Irene, that many people would think you are a Nigerian from Delta State, Irene Yamu, or from Edo State. Yeah.
I will speak the language with
you. have to learn quickly. Yeah, so, good. Yes, Kechi.
There's so many things might actually cause something.
That's true.
Now we start talking about causality in research. It will not correct some impression. If some researcher has said this caused this, other researcher might research on that and now counter it that it is not this but this. It helps to focus on the real cause.
Okay, we're able to focus on the real cause. Yes. Yeah, beautiful. Finally.
When we are able to describe the cause, we are also able to identify like the parties, the agents, and all the interacting factors that are actually causing or compounding the issue. So we are able to identify each of them.
Okay.
The video we watched, if we are able to find the cause, maybe the drilling or the query or something, then we know, okay, men are here, women are here, this the government's, what do you call it, contribution to this etc. But we have to start from
Okay, so focusing on causation can help us to have a comprehensive understanding of a situation. Yeah, perfect. These are all captured here. We are able to understand our social world better if we understand causation. Sometimes, as we will see later, sometimes we just, because we don't know the nature of causes, then we end up blaming the wrong person for some action. We are also able to hold people and institutions accountable. Ronke was saying, so we see the part that government has played, the role that some other people have played, and so on and so forth. So we can hold government and others accountable to their action. Because we know what really caused what, meaning that we are also able to exonerate others and let them, as we will see later in the one of the famous stories that we have read. Importantly, and this is echoing what Haruna said and what Irene said and what Nkechi also said, that when we focus on causality in research, we are able to provide a basis for well-informed policy actions to address social problems. I think of those NGOs that go to Dandora. That's a lot of work, a lot of boldness. I have been to Dandora to do field work, and when we were going, we had to be escorted by armed policemen. There was no other, when we were going to the dump. But the dump had become a big city on its own. So the dump also had its schools, its clinics, and when I was going to do observation in the clinic, there was no need to go with the policeman. But when we were going to the dump itself, that the clinic served, it was not, Pascal didn't want to take the risk. Now, I'm thinking of those NGOs going there to talk about sexual education and family planning and all of those. Sometimes I wonder, how did they get to the conclusion that this is what is needed at this moment in this context? They must have thought, taking some critical thinking and maybe causal analysis, or else then it would just be, they say we should do this intervention and we are just doing it. And sometimes government intervention is just like that. You know, here are people without water, without anything, without, and then you say, okay, so my people, what we have promised you to do, we are going to do it. And then what you are doing is to buy a car for the traditional ruler. Now, but people don't have water to drink. The schools are leaking. People are sitting on the floor. Is that it? So, but I think but if we are don't have a very firm hold on causation, it's difficult to actually influence policy. We'll be saying, well, it looks like, and again, we'll come back to this a bit later to see how our wrong understanding of causes may have misled us in the past into just throwing resources in the very wrong direction. So essentially, we're saying doing causality has to do with, focusing on what really matters, and focusing on what really matters will only happen if we identify what it is. So it's about saying what is that one thing or that one combination of things that is responsible for this situation. That is asking these very key questions, and we'll return to that tomorrow morning. But now we want to move forward, by talking a bit more about this nature of a cause. Many times we don't understand what really is going on. You think back, and sometimes you are just sorry for decisions you took because something happens, Something happened, and then you are late for work, and then you are trying to hurry out, and then you hit something, and then you trip. Now, I begin to blame the person who put that something there, right? Yeah. Right. But is it fair to put all the blame on that person?
Yes.
Huh? Yes, Dio.
Yeah, because if you weren't in a hurry.
If I wasn't in a hurry, I probably would have noticed it and pushed it one side. Even play football with it, Some people put something there the other day, your son did it or your daughter, and you say, hey, you put this here, you kick, and then she kicks back, and it became fun. Now she has done it today. And then, so here we're saying, we may think this is the cause, but then, if we understand the nature of causes very well, we understand this really, really, really is something else. Not the cause. And we'll take up this later. But I'm saying it's worth our effort to even think about to try to define what a cause is. Because that is what we're going to be blaming for whatever happens. Right. So how do you define a cause? This is a very common word. If somebody say define a cause, what would you say a cause is? Yeah, somebody can say a cause is something that causes something. I hear that a lot. In my basic reading classes, I always started with students. Define reading. They say reading is the process of reading books, journals, anything. Yeah. So we keep going around. No? You were going to say something, Valence. You want to define a cause?
I was trying to look at the Andorra issue.
Okay, good.
And I was looking at the way the residents in that area are hostile, and the situation around the area. And I was trying to look at the root cause, being the industries that dump the garbage away. So if you can actually have a policy to stop them, the other people will sort themselves, because the garbage will not be there and they will not go for it to come their way. Yeah,
okay, I agree with you. So the cause of this problem, according to you, industries that are dumping refuse, the cause is not that somebody who should have provided a place for the industry refused to provide. That's not the cause, right? We will see a table soon where we will say, look, really, where do you... Yeah, because the industry will say, look, this is even too far from our factory. We don't like coming here. If we had something else, we'll go there. They'll say, yeah, why didn't you provide something? And then we'll say, yeah, I didn't provide because, and then, yeah, so that is another thing. But now, let's just pause this conversation because it's coming up in 2 or 3 slides. Huh? But how would you define a cause? Let's take a look at this image. What do we see here? Let's call this Bobby Jack. What do you see? What's this?
Broken glass.
Okay. What does this look like? And these are like the pieces of the, yeah, some must have fallen inside, I guess, some outside. If we look at this, maybe it helps us to understand what a cause is. So here we would say, sorry, no, not yet. We would say, we represent cause with this letter X, just to represent it. There is nothing like, okay, so it must be X. There is really no reason why we're using X. And we will represent this thing that has happened as Y. Now we know that this Bobby Jack, no matter what he did, if this was not there, maybe there is a very high chance that this story would have been different. Either he would have used his head, in which case we'll find him stuck here, or he would have found fun elsewhere. Because I suspect that this happened when he was playing football. Let's say football. He looks really sorry about it. But what can we do? What has been done cannot be undone. Now, but let's see how this helps us to define a cause. So we say a cause, which we can also call a causal factor or an X factor. Then we say a Y is something we call an outcome or an outcome factor. Some we call it dependent variable. So others we call this independent variable. People from quantitative backgrounds like to use these terms. Some other people, when they hear dependent variable, independent variable, they need to take a few seconds to say, okay, yeah, now, how did they explain it? And almost every time they hear that, they have to do that quick, travel back to year 1, and then travel back immediately. So it is not easy. For some, it is so very easy for others. Now, because we say, we are from different backgrounds, we want to carry everybody along. So we can, if independent variable is what works for you, that's fine. But if you prefer to say cause, just simple English, cause is, we call it X, this we call Y. Now we're saying, very often in between a cause and what it produces, there is something else. There is a road, there is a chain of events that is connecting them. And we are saying that is also very key for our overall understanding of causation. Now, with this in mind, all of that, all of those were represented here as well. Yeah. Now, let's try to see how we would define a cause. So we're saying, to say X is a cause of an outcome called Y. Okay. This one?
I just wanted to check that the certificate mechanism.
Yes. Yeah, so it's the road or the chain or whatever that I say is between the X and the Y. Yes. Okay? And we will really hammer on this as we move on because it is very crucial to our understanding of causation. Okay. So to say X, for instance, hunger is the cause of Y. For instance, fainting, These examples, I'm using it to tell you something. I didn't eat anything at lunch, at break time, and now you understand the example, where it is coming from. Okay, so to say hunger is the cause of Y, fainting, is to say that if we do something about hunger, like if now you don't have. If you have one small cake and you throw it to this hungry man, that it is also going to have some kind of, on fainting. Yes. Now, in other words, if we flip it, if you keep giving this man food and he still keeps fainting every day, then we are going to, what conclusion are we going to reach? That is the reason he's fainting is not hunger. It may be village people following him, as they say in Nigeria, or something. Yeah, or something else. So we're saying, to say hunger is the cause of fainting, we're saying if we adjust hunger, or if we remove hunger, or if we increase hunger, something else will happen to fainting. You increase hunger, this man will just die forever, or something. If so, and we're saying this kind of change, you know, this kind of change, when we do something to hunger and the change is felt in fainting, it's not magic. That we're saying we should be able to trace a connection between what we have done and what has happened to hunger. And that connection, for want of something, some better name to call it, we just call it Z. That change occurs through Z. And that if we really want to fully understand this situation, if we really want to understand it, we need to pretend. We need to pretend that X was not even there. Then we'll be able to understand how important X is in generating or influencing Y. We need to imagine what Y, fainting, would have been if X, hunger, were not there. The more we appreciate what would have happened, the better we appreciate the role that X in Y, or in producing Y. So now, if I want to understand how N power, that 10,000 naira, is influencing people's business, I need to go and see what their business would have been without N power. If the business would still have been the same, it would still have been the same 2 for 5 naira oranges, 2 for 5 naira. You know how do we say it in Nigeria? You know, in Yoruba land they say ice water tutu, meaning cold ice water. And people wonder, are there hot ice water? You know, people who sell this thing. Now, but so if I can say that the businesses of these people will still have remained the same, even if they didn't get M power, then I can conclude that M power was not a cause to the growth of their business. So if I see these 10 people who got M power, their business have grown, and I can link this 10,000 naira to the growth, that link is really where the hard work is. Then I can say N power produced that. Otherwise, then M power, 10,000 naira, is not the cause of business prosperity. Does this make some sketchy sense? Are this tentative? Yeah, some tentative sense. Yes, Ngozi? Okay, no, it's usually sometimes like this. So there is no, just smile. I mean, you'll be okay. So now this is what we're saying. I was just using the N power to explain. Recently, our government started giving small amounts of money to business people. They understand that when this money is big and it's given through the banks and you have to fill all the forms and you have to bring all the shorties, they claim that the very poor people on the road selling cola nuts will not get that money. And I think maybe that is true. So the vice president himself went out and was, well, I don't know whether he was distributing. Trader money. Thank you. This is how we know who collected what. Trader money. Trader. You know trader, and you know money. Yeah, so they call it trader money. Thank you very much, Rahila. So now, this is what we're saying. 5 people collected M power, or some people collected M power. Trader money. They collected trader money. Now, you know, recently the vice president said, "Oh, those who collected this money are doing well with their business." That's a very political statement, you know. Now, let's say they are doing well. Let's say their business has increased. So we say, the vice president is saying, trader money is the cause, business growth is the outcome. In our language, trader money is the X, business growth is the Y. And for that to be right, we are saying, number one, it must be that if we increase trader money, this business growth will also increase. That is one way of saying, indeed, X trader money is leading to growth. Then we are also saying, for us to capture this thing very well, we have to imagine what the reality of trader money would have been without, the reality of business growth would have been without trader money. If our conclusion is that, without this trader money, these people's business would have reached the floor, then we say trader money is indeed very good. It has helped. So X increases, Y increases. Yes, Y will not have increased without the X. Yes. If we have yes on those two notes, oh yeah, good. That imagination, you know that we are dealing with people who have trader money. That pretending to see what would have happened if X was not there is called the counterfactual condition. It is called the what if condition. What if condition. And if you remember, Sloman says, actually a good part of our life is run based on counterfactual understanding. So I get to my house and I see this is my bed, and I went down, and I am fine. He said that you will appreciate the meaning of bed. If you imagine what would have happened if in your absence somebody has removed that bed and you go down like that, say you will thank God for a bed more. Right? He said, so if you want to understand how good something is, how strong an X is, how powerful it is or it is not, let us imagine that it was not there. He said that imagination, they call it counterfactual condition. Now this is very general. This is still flying out there. As we move on, also in the electives, we will see how all of these then find their way into the way we understand and explain causation, for instance. They are the principles behind the pure experimental studies that we do. They are the principles behind quasi-experimental studies that we do. They are the principles behind things like even causal, even ethnographic work that we do. If we understand the principle of causation very well, we are going to be able to understand and even deepen how these things work.
The Association of African Universities, AAU, is an international non-governmental organization set up by universities in Africa to promote cooperation among themselves and the international academic community.
Mon nom est professeur Étienne Erouin-Eilé. Je suis le secrétaire général de l'Association des universités africaines qui est basée à Accra, au Ghana. Je vais vous parler de la création de l'Association des universités africaines. Il faut remonter dans les années 60 pour pouvoir comprendre le processus. Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement.
I am Notumo Dlamini. I'm the Director of ICT Services and Knowledge Management at the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities is a network of 400 universities in Africa. The biggest value that the universities benefit from being members of the association is this big platform that allows them to collaborate, allows them to work together, allows them to teach together. Through this platform, a university in North Africa can work with a university in Southern Africa. and also those in East Africa can work with those in West Africa.
Founded November 1967 at a conference in Rabat, Morocco, by heads of African higher education institutions, the association is currently headquartered in Accra, Ghana.
My name is Maxwell Amo-Hoyt. I'm the Director of Finance of the Association of African Universities. The association sustains itself from contributions from member universities and also from other development partners. Some of our development partners include the World Bank, other governmental agencies like the Swedish International Development Agency, UK Department for International Development, and other partners. We also receive a lot of support from other governments, especially the government of Ghana. Other partners include the African Union, which is more or less the parent organization of the Association of African Universities. The Association of African Universities hosts the Secretariat for the African Union's Continental Education Strategy. And by so doing, we provide coordinating roles for the African Union in helping members achieve their targets.
Déjà en 1960, nos dirigeants estimaient que l'éducation est l'outil majeur pour pouvoir lutter contre la pauvreté et assurer le développement. Et rappelons-nous que les années 60, la décade 60, a été une décade où la plupart des pays africains ont obtenu leur indépendance ou ont, disons, pris les dispositions pour être indépendants. C'était donc aussi l'année de développement, dans la mesure où tous ces pays indépendants devaient se retrouver de temps en temps pour parler de comment mettre ensemble leurs problèmes et trouver une solution commune à leurs problèmes. Et dans ce contexte-là, l'éducation était une priorité pour eux, surtout l'éducation universitaire. Et sur ce plan-là, les universités aussi se sont organisées grâce à l'UNESCO qui a parrainé plusieurs réunions depuis Madagascar jusqu'au Maroc.
My name is Jonathan Umba. I'm the Director of Research and Academic Planning. The programs and projects that we run at AAU are consistent with our strategic plan, and they are implemented for our higher education stakeholders, namely the higher education institutions in Africa. These programs are implemented in such a way that our stakeholders will get the benefit of membership of our association. And our programs also are aligned with a number of global and international agendas on higher education, including the Continental Education Strategy for Africa and the Agenda 2063. So these programs are aligned with a number of international agendas with a view to promoting higher education in Africa.
The AAU is the apex organization and principal forum for consultation, exchange of information, and cooperation among universities in Africa.
I am Professor Nkusa Mahao, Vice Chancellor of the National University of Lesotho in the Kingdom of Lesotho in Southern Africa. There are roughly 77 universities that are affiliated with the AAU in the region. But as you might be aware, there are a lot more universities that are as yet to take the membership of the Association of African Universities. Well, universities that are not members of the AAU are missing quite a lot. First of all, let's appreciate this one point, that the AAU is a main driver from the angle of training and capacitating the human resources of the continent, the agenda of the African Union 2063. So if an institution is not on board It is missing the opportunity to leverage on the opportunities that are provided by the association in the area of training, human resource capital, training their own staff and students, the opportunities that are provided by the universalization of quality management on higher education on the continent, and many other opportunities that are provided.
Et en 1963, il y a eu une réunion à Khartoum, au Soudan, où les chefs des institutions d'enseignement supérieur ont décidé de créer l'Association des universités africaines. Finalement, la création va se faire à une conférence qui s'est tenue à Rabat au Maroc, et la création de l'Association des universités africaines a eu lieu le 12 novembre 1967.
I'm Prof. Hassan Kafi, AAU Governing Board member representing for East African region. Also, I am the president of Plasma University, Mogadishu, Somalia. We really like to give a call for universities in Africa, especially in East Africa, those which are not members still in the Association of African Universities. We are calling them because we feel the organization is ours. It represents the voice of higher education in Africa being seen all over the world.
Hello Africa, welcome to another edition of AAU Talks. Our topic for discussion this morning is the diaspora as a resource to Africa's development. With me in the studio is Kerry, a retired English professor, Cindy, a teacher and entrepreneur, Sharon, legal assistant and family grilled. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion.
The University of Khartoum is the oldest university in Sudan. It has a lot of faculties, and this includes the science faculty. The science faculty has a lot of facilities, and among them is the Microbial Culture Collection Unit, MCCU. The MCCU has two sub-units, namely the Molecular Biology and the Microbiology units. The Microbiology units consist of the culture room and the Microbiology lab. The Microbiology lab is well equipped with state-of-the-art facilities to conduct analysis on bacteria and other microbes. The bacteria then sent to the culture room for incubation based on two temperatures, that is, the cold and the room temperature. There is also a freeze dryer that converts bacteria into powdery forms to be stored over time. The Molecular Biology unit is where DNAs are extracted using equipment such as microwaves. Other facilities of the unit include a sterilization room where all equipment used in the unit are sterilized. It is also where the microbes used in the various experiments are killed. A cold room where samples such as DNA and media are kept, as well as a meeting room where seminars and experiments are done.
Welcome back. My name is Irene and I'll be your host for today's program. Welcome to Ghana. How is the experience?
Wow. So we've been here since Monday.
Okay.
And it's been an amazing experience. The Ghanaian family, we should call them. You guys, you have been hospitable, but it's just hot. So we left the U.S. and we weren't this hot. We're managing to get by, but we are grateful for the love and the kindness that has been shown.
Okay. Yeah. So, Sharon, we wanted to talk about your family. Why are you here? Why are you in Ghana?
We are here to celebrate my mother, Lucille Myrtle Johnson Simpson Hobson, her 90th birthday. Yay. And I did her DNA, and she's actually 20% Ghanaian.
Oh, you've claimed her.
Yes. So we're coming back home. She said, and she had lived to see an African-American president, President Barack Obama, and she also wanted to travel to Africa.
That's good.
In her lifetime. So we brought her back home.
Okay. So can you talk a little about your family genealogy, since you are the family?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have been working on our family history for over 20 years. I've been able to track our history back to 1835 on both sides with the use of Ancestry.com, census reports, medical reports. I am actually at the point that I now have to investigate the slave voyages.
Oh.
Yes.
That's so close.
Yes, it is close. But now I have to figure out, because, since they were chattel, they just identify them as male, female, and number of children.
Okay.
So I have to find out which ship they came over on. One of the things I do know about our history is that my great-great-grandfather was taken from the islands, from the Caribbean, actually, and they were taken to Virginia. And then they were transported to Alabama and given the surname of Johnson. This is my mother's great-grandfather. So I have to go from that point and then track it back. But it has been an amazing experience because she is Ghanaian, and some people even say that we look like Ghanaians. Right.
It's sure. And your name, it means you're a Fanti, because you have the Johnson, the Thompsons, and all of that.
Yes.
So you are the right place. Maybe from Cape Coast.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So which places did you go?
We went to Cape Coast yesterday. We had lunch at the university. Then we drove to Elmina Castle to see the slave castles.
How was the experience over there?
Heartbreaking.
Yes.
I don't know.
It was unimaginable. When you go through and
the door of no return.
Yes. And I mean, you just had a pensive moment. It almost makes you want to cry because it's very sad that you're not going to return, you're going to leave your family. And you think about, and it's against your will, it is just not by choice. And just to be ripped apart. And I remember during our family reunion, when I told it this time, because usually we do a presentation, but when I told it this time, I wanted it to come to life because a lot of the younger generation, they have lost touch. They are yielding the benefits of that journey, but they don't understand the journey. So this time, we had a 3-part series, and it was entitled Our Roots Run Deep. This is a picture of our brochure, Our Roots Run Deep in Our Ancestors' Wildest Dreams. And the first part, I enacted. So it was like a dinner theater. So I was the connecting point. And as I told the history, I had background PowerPoint presentations. I actually had cotton so they could tell. We had a slave doll. And just to make it come to life. The second part was called Way Out of No Way. And I had people like my mother's generation tell their stories about how God made a way out of no way and how they made it through. And then I had their children read it, because you want to cement that. And then the last part was called Our Ancestors' Wildest Dreams. So I had people like my niece, Cindy, talk about her accomplishments, my daughter, that generation. And Cindy wasn't able to attend, but she sent this amazing video. And she goes through everything that she's accomplished, and then at the conclusion, she'll go down through the lineage, and then she concludes and says, I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And so we wanted that journey to connect from the roots to the present.
Kerry, so this is real. This is not being reenacted, but you came to feel it. How important is this journey for you and your family, the trip you took to Ghana?
It's very important because so many people, so many African Americans have no desire to come to Africa. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to go there. I'd rather go to Greece, or I'd rather go to Italy, something like that. And I think the more of us who come here and then we come back and say, it's not what you see on TV.
Yeah, right.
I was very emphatic about bringing my granddaughter, who was, so that she will never develop the attitude that the media presents us with. So she will always, and the first thing she said, there's going to be lions there. There's going to be.
I guess we are still living on trees.
And I had to keep telling her, it's not going to be like that. She said, where are we going to sleep?